Vanessa, let me welcome you back at this point. And of course, the UN Security Council held a vote on whether there should be a ceasefire in Gaza.
Yes, and finally, a successful resolution to adopt a somewhat limited ceasefire. Russia, of course, wanted a total ceasefire. That has been consistently vetoed. So let's just watch the video of the actual vote.
Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024/254 please raise their hand. Those against? Abstention? The result of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favor, 0 vote against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2728, 2024.
Quite extraordinary report in CNN yesterday, which stated that the US had allowed the ceasefire, which gives some idea of how people perceive the rule of the UN Security Council with an abstention. Now, interesting that there was a US abstention, there was a UK vote yes by Ambassador Barbara Woodward, who put out a statement, I think, yesterday, Mike, you sent it to me. And basically, she makes very sort of typical comments. She talks about the fact that she would have preferred if they had condemned Hamas for the October 7th attacks. She does talk about the suffering of the Palestinian people, but almost as if it's happening in isolation from Israel and not attributing any of those genocidal campaigns to Israel itself. And I wanted to actually play one video from inside Gaza that has appeared in the last week. Basically, these are Palestinians pushing dead bodies on a cart which is being pulled by a horse, and it is distressing viewing. It's from a distance, but it's still distressing. But let's roll this video.
כמה היו שם? 5? חמישה היו שם?
I have to say, Vanessa, that's pretty sick. Too bad about the horse, they said.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So these are the crimes that Barbara Woodward has literally never referred to, as far as I'm aware. Now, I also think that the reason for this abstention and yes vote by the UK are looming elections, because they're aware of the damage to their election chances because of backlash about their support, or Biden's and Rishi Sunak's support for Israel and its genocidal campaign, obviously genocidal campaign. And what that bombing reminds me of, actually, Mike, is the WikiLeaks footage of the US forces in Iraq, if you remember. And I think basically, I mean, Biden has been seeing real pushback in swing states like Michigan, Wisconsin. So I think both the UK and the US have decided purely on political reasons to make this change in their voting right now. It has nothing to do with protection of Palestinians. And of course, the ceasefire is non-binding. Who's going to actually enforce it? But what happens Netanyahu throws his toys out of the cot basically because he perceives the abstention as a betrayal by Washington, and he cancels a major delegation to Washington immediately after the ceasefire vote, which causes some turmoil inside Israel itself. If we look at the next slide, there's an IDF, a retired IDF Major General, Amos Gilad. What's happening is crazy. How did we get to this situation, and how did we reach confrontation and friction with the United States? This is an attack on Israeli national security. It's unbelievable. And there have been many such comments. He goes on to say our strategic strength is built on the strength of the army, most of whose weapons come from the United States. A lot of admissions coming through at this point. In short, the alliance with the United States is one of the guarantees of our existence, what of course we've all been saying for some time now. And then we actually had an interview with Israeli media with former Israeli ambassador to Washington, Dr. Michael Oren. And in it, he actually pointed out that he doesn't believe there is any real pro-Israel candidate in the US, neither Trump nor Biden. The Americans believe that this is a war for Benjamin Netanyahu and not for the state of Israel. He mentions the operation to enter Rafah. Now, I think many in Israel are terrified of the operation in Rafah because they understand that they've lost control of the IOF forces inside Gaza that are committing atrocities on an almost hourly basis with no control over them whatsoever. And on the next slide, he actually goes on to say, so he claimed the fight with sticks and stones, which of course they can't. He referred to Defense Minister Yoav Gallant's visit to Washington. They will talk about ammunition, and this comes against the backdrop of a global shortage of ammunition due to the war in Ukraine. Another very interesting admission. In the next slide, we'll see who Michael Oren was to Syria. So in September 2013, he made very clear that Israel wanted Assad gone since the start of the Syria so-called civil war. What does he go on to say, though? Bad guys backed by Iran are worse for Israel than bad guys who are not supported by the Islamic Republic. He basically says, we prefer Al-Qaeda or ISIS to President Assad. And of course, we know that Israel has effectively supported both groups since the beginning of the regime change war, providing weapons, hospital treatment, etc. This is particularly ironic in view of the very put-out Israeli ambassador's statement, even over the Crocus attacks. So let's just roll that.
At least 137 people were murdered at Crocus City Concert Hall in Russia on Friday by radical jihadists. And yes, almost 6 months ago, nearly 400 people were murdered at the Nova Music Festival in Israel by the radical jihadists of Hamas. Why does the Security Council discriminate between Russians murdered at a concert and Israelis murdered at a music festival? Civilians, dear colleagues, no matter where they live, deserve to enjoy music in safety and security. And the Security Council should have the moral clarity to condemn such acts of terror equally, without discrimination.
Perhaps because you supported those terror groups inside Syria? Just a guess.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.